You can accomplish more than you ever thought possible when you know what to do, and perhaps more importantly, what not to do. You may have heard of the Pareto principle. It basically states that 80% of consequences come from about 20% of causes. Or when it comes to productivity, 80% of your results come from just 20% of your actions. And the problem for most people is knowing which 20%. My name is Marisa Murgatroyd, and I've helped over 10,000 students launch their businesses and their products online by finding what I call the path of least resistance and greatest reward, by working with their strengths rather than against their weaknesses. And the reason why this really matters to me is because I did not follow my path for years and years. I followed the path that was laid down by my family, the path that I was supposed to be on, the path that I was born or raised at least to be on. And it took me a long time to figure out what my path was. And when I found my path, it just exponentially increased my productivity because I knew what I was meant to be doing and what I was not meant to be doing, what I was designed to do and what I was not designed to do. And that makes a massive difference because one of the things that can really increase your productivity using the Pareto principle is essentially focusing 80% of your time in your genius zone, or what I like to call your superpower. And your superpower is kind of the gift beneath the gift beneath the gift, the thing that you've been doing since you were oftentimes a child. That gift that you've got, that it doesn't matter the context, you're always giving this gift. And for me, I like to say my superpower is translating essence into form. I've got the ability to tune into the essence of a person and translate that into words and images and experiences, into brands and messaging and products. And I can do that in other contexts as well. A lot of times I'm having a conversation with someone and I just get right to the heart of what's really happening. And I speak a truth that sometimes the person I'm talking to is not ready to hear because I've got this ability to just extract the essence of something and reflect it back. And that's what I've always been doing. And the way that I can give that gift the most is when I'm speaking, when I'm recording videos like this one, when I'm creating content in courses, in trainings, delivering webinars, speaking from the stage, doing high-level consulting. So I know that when I'm doing those things, I'm in my genius zone. I also love to create marketing, really design webinars and design sales pages and copy because that's all about translating essence into form. So if I were to boil down my superpower into one word, it would be to express. I was born to express. So take a moment to think about what your superpower is. What is the thing that you've always done? And not something that's specific to your particular business or the context in which you might be serving and giving your talents right now, but the gift beneath the gift beneath the gift. What is that thing? And if you can't figure out that thing, that simple phrase that explains your superpower or gift, focus on the single word, the one word verb that really describes what you're here to do. So for example, like I said, mine is to express, and for my husband, Murray, his is to vision. He's got that ability to make quantum leaps beyond what's here in the current moment to what can be in the future. And that's a gift that's helped me so often that I always turn to him to ask for advice when I'm thinking about what to do next, when I'm thinking about my future moves. So what is that gift that you're here to do? And how can you focus 80% of your time realizing that gift, giving that gift? Because when you do, I tell you, the money and the rewards start to flow and you'll be making a much bigger impact by feeling a lot happier in what you're really doing. And to be honest, I spent most of my career not in my genius zone. And when I first started thinking about, well, what could I really do? What could I really give in the form of a business? All I could think about originally was I know how to make things look good and sound good and tell a really good story because I came from the world of documentary filmmaking. And as an artist, I didn't think those skills had a lot of value. You know, I hadn't been paid a lot of money up until that point. I was making maybe $1,000 a week as a, hired producer on all of these documentary films, but in a completely different context. But when I really looked at the gift beneath the gift, I realized I wasn't just making things look good and sound good and telling good stories, that I was really translating essence into form, and that set of skills had massive value outside of the context of filmmaking in which I was working. So focus on your superpower first and don't worry about all the applications of your superpower. Don't worry what people are going to pay you for. Don't worry about what you can create a career or business around. Just focus on what that gift is. And I'm willing to bet that it has a whole lot more value than even you imagine right now. I never thought that those skill sets that I've been developing over a lifetime that I'd been paid very little for up until then were actually responsible now for creating this business that's poised to cross the $10 million a year mark. So when you focus 80% of your time on your superpower, you've got that potential to really have a lot of bang for your buck, to really focus on the high leverage activities that only you can do, that nobody can replace you with, because you are the best at that. And you do that unlike anybody else, which is why it's so important to apply the Pareto principle to your gifts and where you focus your time. Because when you focus on your superpower, like I said, the money flows, the impact flows, and your sense of happiness and fulfillment and contentedness with what you get to wake up and do every single day, it just goes through the roof. And this is when you start to feel at home in your life. You feel confident in your skill set. You feel like you are living your full potential every single day, because that potential can really only be realized in the heart of your genius zone. Not outside of that, but really in the center of what that's all about. So here's the thing. There's a personality system called the wealth dynamics that says that there are actually 8 ways to achieve wealth. 8 ways to really use your talents and skills to generate success in the world. And my profile is a creator with a star wing. So it makes sense that as a creator, my gift is translating essence into form, and that I'm all about expressing, right? A creator star is born to do that and to express what it is that I'm creating. So if you can't figure out what that is for yourself, you can turn to personality profiles like that. We give all of our year-long momentum students the wealth dynamics, and we coach them based on their strengths, based on their genius zone. So we can help them make choices about their business that really align with who they are and what they're designed to do, because that unlocks this greater level of productivity that I've been talking about. So next up, just like you want to identify your superpowers, you want to identify what I call your kryptonites, or those no-go zones, the 80% of things that you could be doing that you should probably not be doing, because it's not going to lead to productivity, to success, to fulfillment, to wealth, to impact, to all the things that you want. These are the activities that always feel like a struggle for you, that drain your energy, that make you a little bit frustrated, maybe even bitter, especially if you've got to do them day after day after day. And the one important thing to think about here is that oftentimes people can mistake their zones of competence for their zones of genius. And what I mean by that is that you may have gotten very good at some things along the way, but it's not your genius zone. It's not your superpower. It's not your real gift for the world. So let me give you an example. I'm actually really good at getting things done. I'm really good at taking action, and also not just starting things, but finishing things. So I can make almost anything happen. However, when I'm in the weeds of the project management and communicating with 10 different people and managing all the projects and people and things and assets, I get a little bit weighed down, and I'm not as creative as I could be, because I'm being interrupted out of my genius zone of thinking and creating and expressing to kind of manage all of these different pieces. Now, I could have easily mistaken my genius zone for the zone of confidence that I've developed, because this zone of competence really is something that I've been recognized and acknowledged for my entire life. So you have to be careful that you're not focusing on your zone of competence. And your zone of competence isn't necessarily something that you want to avoid, but it's certainly not that 20% that drives the 80% results. But it's also not the no-go zone. It's not the kryptonite zone, the 80% of things that you don't want to be doing at all, because they take the majority of your time and your energy and your attention, but they don't deliver the results. They maybe deliver 20% of the results versus 80% of the results, all right? So that's the thing that you really want to understand. So things that are kryptonite for me, and this is super common for creator profiles, is managing people. As creators, it's very common to have super high expectations, but also be very good at creating things. And so you expect that everybody is as good at creating things as you are. And that's super common. If you look at a lot of the famous creators, people like Steve Jobs or, Walt Disney, they were famous creators, but they needed somebody else to manage all the people and things because they had such high standards of creation and they couldn't get in the weeds with people to explain their vision. I'm also no good at meetings. They drive me a little bit crazy because I feel like my time would be better spent creating and expressing, right? I'm also not good at day-to-day operations. I mean, anything related to a spreadsheet, managing numbers and accounts payable and profit and loss statements and HR and legal and all of that category of things. I'd rather just make more money than have to manage the money that I've got. And that's super duper common as well. And luckily at this point in my business, I can hire people who can do the kryptonite things for me, who can do all those no-go zone things. So I have the privilege and the opportunity to spend that 80% of time in my genius zone. And I gotta say that when you're first getting started, you may not be able to get to 80% of your time in your genius zone. That's something to aspire to over the evolution of your business, especially once you've got the resources to hire a team and to really scale your business. Then you wanna get closer and closer to that 80% of your time in your genius zone. But when you're getting started, as a coach of mine once said, you've got to earn the right to pride and prejudice. You want to start aligning more and more of your activities in your genius zone, but you're going to spend a little bit more time outside of your genius zone just getting things going. So the last thing that you want to focus on is creating a schedule and really blocking your time so it allows you to get into your flow state and really kind of tune in to what matters most to you. But where a lot of people go wrong when it comes to setting a schedule is they feel like they have to follow their schedule 100%. And that's just not realistic. And a lot of times if you have that all or nothing mentality to something like scheduling and to productivity, you just walk around feeling guilty all the time because you feel like, oh no, I missed that block time, or oh no, this thing took me longer than I had planned for it, or oh my gosh, this thing came up with my family or my pet or whatever it happens to be. And all of a sudden you're no longer on your schedule and then you start to feel guilty because you meant to do this thing and you're not doing this thing. So one of the ways to apply the Pareto principle to scheduling is to create a schedule that really reflects most of your time, but only expect to follow that schedule 80% of the time, and then really give yourself that license to let life happen as life happens and not feel guilty or bad or kick yourself for life happening, because that's when you start to get demotivated from following your schedule at all and think, well, what's the point? Why should I even schedule myself and schedule blocks of productive time if I know I'm just not going to follow through with it anyway? But when you have that wiggle room, when you say, you know what? I'm going to put these blocks in my schedule and I'm going to try to follow them 80% of the time, all of a sudden you start to get way more results, right? Way more results. Okay? And then don't worry about that 20%. Just let it go, because that last 20%, realizing that last 20%, it takes way more effort than realizing the first 80%. And it's oftentimes just not worth it to focus on it. So here's the thing. I've got my own aligned action schedule that I've created, and you can see that all of this morning block time, I don't let people get on the phone with me until about 1 p.m. Pacific, because I'm so creative and tapped in the morning where I feel like I can just create at a productivity level that's 3-4 times higher than I can, say, in the middle of the afternoon. And I record videos like this in the middle of the afternoon because I don't have to be at my most productive to talk, to speak, to record a video, but I do have to be at my most productive to write, to think, to generate new content. So another piece of that schedule is understanding what are the blocks of time when you are most productive. Is it first thing in the morning? Is it after lunch? Is it late night when everybody else is asleep? Understand when you're most productive, when you can work at like 2 or 3 or 4 times the productivity level of the rest of the day, and then focus your most important work, your highest resistance work during that time. Okay? That's a huge tip as well, because you're working with your natural body rhythms and flows. But whatever you put on this paper, whatever it happens to be, whenever you put those creative blocks, those productive blocks, those high kind of productivity, heavy resistance activity blocks to get the big things in your business or in your life done, the things that will actually move your business forward, the important things and not necessarily the urgent things that come up on a day-to-day basis. Even once you have that, just worry about doing it 80% of the time. You know? Because a schedule, you can't live a perfect schedule, and don't even try. Or like I said, it's going to put you on the guilt track versus the freedom track. And here's the thing. I believe in working and creating and living out of inspiration, not out of obligation. And the more you can design your schedule and the activities that you choose to focus on around what inspire you versus around what you're obligated to do, like I did for the first 30 some years of my life, following the path that my family laid down for me, the more you're going to be liberated to be in your genius zone and in your productive zone and in the things that only you can do, the things that generate that wealth and that impact and that freedom. So I want to make sure that I give you more resources and more videos to keep going deeper into the center of what you're all about and unlock greater levels of productivity than you thought possible. So you may want to check out my video on the $1 Million Morning Routine, which is how I built 3 successful companies without burning out, and the mindset of self-made millionaires. These videos will keep tuning you in even deeper into the sweet spot of where you can perform at the greatest level and realize your full potential every day.